And here's a picture of the cover of today's London Times. So, Simon, it looks like, I'm guessing Europeans were probably pretty excited to see an Obama reelected.
Yeah, well, it's a big event. That, of course, owned by our parent company, News Corp. The Times there, very popular paper. Nice cover, I thought. Very nice cover that they do there. Nice and bold. Not too many words on it. Yeah, I do think it's a big deal for Europeans. Europe tends to lean a little bit more liberal. They obviously have much more in common with President Obama. So it will be interesting to see what's going to happen. Well, we've got some changes going on in Europe with leadership across Europe, and how that relationship continues, because it can be testy at times between Europe and the U.S.
And we want to talk more about that with our London bureau chief, Bruce Orwall, who is joining us now. Bruce, good morning. Do we have Bruce? Can Bruce hear me?
I'm here.
Hi, Bruce. Good morning. So I want to ask you, Obama is obviously still very popular in Europe, but the reaction this time around is more muted than it really was in 2008. What is Europe looking for from in terms of American leadership at this point?
Well, look, of course, President Obama his election in 2008 here was a very euphoric moment. It is muted this time around a little bit. You know, there's a sense of congratulations, Mr. President, but hey, remember us? We've got problems over here that didn't get discussed a lot in the campaign. The Eurozone crisis, which I don't think even came up during the foreign policy debate during the presidential campaign, being primary among them, but European leaders in tweeting and telegraphing their congratulations to the president are also going out of their way to mention issues like Syria, which they feel urgently need attention.
So the Syria question, how urgently do they feel that needs attention? I know there's been a lot of reticence on behalf of the U.S. to get involved in Syria because it looks like a war that would bog us down for years potentially again. Are they now really pressing for, you got to do something, President?
I couldn't quite hear what you said, but if you're talking about the Middle East, you know, there's this sense that the U.S. foreign policy, which was discussed in the campaign, is pivoting toward Asia. And, you know, you're seeing with the issues in Libya, Iran, and the whole sanctions issue there, and negotiating the nuclear issue with the Iranians, and the question of what to do about Syria and how to intervene in that situation are all, you know, fairly urgent on this side of the world. So there's a lot of you know, sort of subtle nudging to the president to try to pay attention to those this morning.
Okay, I just want to, Bruce, I want to get back to Simon's question. Hopefully you can hear me. He was asking specifically about Syria, and it's obviously a very difficult situation, and it's not clear what the United States can do without potentially getting bogged down in a conflict with I guess what did Europeans expect in terms of specific action from the United States on Syria?
Well, I think that's a bit all over the map. You know, they were, in one sense, sort of happy with what happened in Libya last year, where the Americans led from behind. It sort of spread the burden around. But I think on this side of the world, they still do look to the U.S. to be leaders. I've had, you know, many people say to me during the course of this election that the American election is important because the U.S. is still sort of the primary superpower that orients to this part of the world. And so, you know, how you navigate into this Syria situation remains to be seen. But I think there's a clear sense that they're looking for some American leadership in that area that has been kind of put to the side during the campaign.
Bruce, is there a worry about Syria that if it's left to fester, we see a bigger problem in the Middle East? We've got hundreds of thousands of Syrian refugees all over the Middle East now, some in Turkey, some in Jordan, some going into Lebanon. You've got tension between Israel and Iran. You've got problems emerging in Egypt. This is all looking like a big, fat mess.
It is, and you know, as they've listened to the president talk about sort of the need to focus on Asia, I think that they are, you know, as I said, they're trying to pull his attention back in this direction. Prime Minister David Cameron in the UK, for example, in the last day or so, has, you know, made a point of saying, congratulations to my good friend President Obama, but also raising this Syrian issue very directly because, you know, I think it's seen more clearly on this side of the world, and and there is a feeling that it needs more attention, and that with the American focus drifting toward Asia for a lot of understandable reasons, that there's a need to reel it back in to the Middle East, which is just not going to go away as an issue.
Bruce, thanks so much for joining us this morning.